So, assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. So, this is your friend, brother JoArs Alferez. So, I am going to share with you about the discussion, to continue the discussion on interreligious dialogue. I think you have already a lot of idea about interreligious dialogue, but I would like to share with you the principles of interreligious dialogue. So, in this first slide, if you notice the different religion with a golden rule. I think you're familiar with the golden rule. So each religion, there is a golden rule, and which, if you notice, they are more or less similar, like Buddhism. Treat not others in a way that you yourself would find hurtful. So that's in Buddhism. While in Islam, not one of you truly believes until you wish for others what you wish for yourself. So that's the golden rule in Islam. Then in Judaism, what is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. This is the whole Torah. All the rest is commentary. Then in Christianity, in everything, do not do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law and the prophets. So in Taoism, regard your neighbor's gain as your own gain, and your neighbor's loss as your own loss. In Hinduism, this is the sum of duty. Do not do to others what would cause pain if you have done to you. So, and the rest. And if you notice, this golden rule is similar. Okay, is similar. To make it short, do not do unto others if you don't want that others will do it unto you. And I think you are familiar with this. So, all religion in the world, especially the major religion in the world, have similar golden rule. So we'll proceed. In our previous discussion, I think you already know why we need to have interfaith dialogue, interreligious dialogue. Then there are curriculum sources in the interfaith dialogue, like peace building, the one that we mentioned, the golden rule, the bilateral dialogues, ecology and social justice, prayer and meditation, interfaith toolkits, young adults, the college universities, including us, and of course, the schools and the youth groups. That's the sources of interfaith dialogue in the curriculum, okay? Interfaith curriculum sources. So doon natin makikita. So we move on. Talking about this interfaith dialogue, I'd like to share that the proponent of this dialogue, the interfaith dialogue, are our leaders in the Catholic Church, and the rest of the religion sumunod, nagkaisa, may panawagan kasi. So, for example, in the last 40 years, the Catholic worldwide have been rethinking their attitudes toward the non-Christian religions. Then in the Second Vatican Council is now seen as the watershed event in this new openness towards the Jews, the Muslims, the Buddhists, the Hindus, and the members of other religious traditions. Then the last four popes have provided courageous leadership as the church journey through the uncharted territory of interfaith dialogue. So the first pope, the first leader in our church, the Catholic Church, who initiate this interfaith dialogue is Pope John Paul the 23rd. He was the one who opened the door of the interfaith dialogue. So take note on that. The one who initiated are the popes, the leader of the Catholic Church. Then, at the way of judgment, we don't ask whether we realize unity, but whether we prayed, worked, and suffered for it. Then according to Pope John the 23rd, During the World War II, John 23rd was an archbishop and the Vatican Apostolic Delegate in Istanbul, Turkey. His courageous action during this period saves thousands of European Jews condemned to extermination. He also played the crucial role in alerting in the Vatican and the Allies of the horrendous genocide that was taking place. So that was the Second World War. Okay? Then, moved by the intuition that the whole church was in need of renewal, Pope John the 23rd convened the Second Vatican Council from 1962 to 1965, and this is called the Ecumenical Council. Produced groundbreaking documents on interfaith dialogue, social justice, religious freedom, and religious pluralism. Then the Vatican II is one of the most important interfaith events in the history of the Church. In choosing for the respectfully acknowledge the presence of grace, truth, and holiness in the other religious traditions, then the Council changed the Catholic Church forever. So great an impression did the Pope John make upon the Jewish community of Rome that the chief rabbi and a number of his congregants went to St. Peter's Square to pray for the dying pontiff during his final days. So, ito yung mga nangyayari noon. Si Pope John Paul the 23rd, siya yung nauna. And of course, una-unang nag-respond sa kanyang call are the Jewish community. And because also of the incidents, kaya nabuksan din yung door ng Catholic Church na kailangan na talaga ang interfaith dialogue. Kasi sabi natin noon in our discussion, because of the plurality of religion, there is a need to talk. There's a need to share. Okay? Kasi kailangan yun para maiwasan din yung mga away-away. Then the second Pope, he is known as the architect of interfaith dialogue. Si Pope Paul VI. So it was started by John the 23rd, then continued by Pope Paul VI, known as the architect of interfaith dialogue. So we acknowledge with respect the spiritual and moral values of the various non-Christian religions, for we desire to join them in promoting and defending the common ideals in the spheres of religious liberty, human brotherhood, teaching, and the education, social welfare, and the civic order, according to Pope Paul VI. Then, the successor, Pope John's successor, which is Pope Paul VI, dream of the church in conversation with all the religions and cultures of the world. In fact, he is the chief architect, so sinabi na natin, of the Catholic infrastructure when we talk about interreligious relations. Even before the council had ended, he established the Secretariat for Non-Christians and later renamed the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue. This is the Pontifical Council of the Church major vehicle for promoting dialogue with other religions. Then Pope Paul VI encyclical, which is known as Ecclesiam Suam, was the first encyclical in the church history to promote interreligious dialogue. So take note ha, during his pontificate, the first encyclical, ibig sabihin, itong encyclical, ito yung sulat from the Pope na pinamagatang Ecclesiam Suam. Once again, the first encyclical in the church history to promote interreligious dialogue. Then during of its 6 pastoral trips abroad, he met the local leaders of the world religion. When he visited India, hundreds of thousands of people lined up in the streets to stood in silence. Hindus regard as the religious leader of their faith as the special manifestation of God. So kagandahan, una-una si John the 23rd ang nag-response ang mga Jewish people. Pagdating naman ito kay Pope Paul VI, the architect of Interfaith Dialogue, ang una namang binisita niya ay ang India, in which in the faith of the Hindus, they have to respect leaders whatever is the religion. Kaya nga tinanggap din siya doon. Kaya nga people line up in the streets and stood in silence. Okay? Then from Paul VI, here comes another pope, which is very known as Interfaith giant. From the architect, the one who started 23rd, and from the second is si Pope Paul VI, the architect of Interfaith. Now, the giant. What does it mean, the giant? Siya talaga yung nagpalaganap. After knowing all the history, siya yung nagpalaganap talaga sa tinatawag nating interfaith dialogue. So, by dialogue, according to him, we let God be present in our midst. For as we open ourselves to another, we open ourselves to God. Take note, that's according to Pope Paul II. Now, in our church is known as Saint John Paul II. So once again, according to him, by dialogue, we let God be present in our midst. For as we open ourselves to one another, we open ourselves to God. And why? Sabi natin noon in my discussion, because we are all human. For the sake of humanities, we are all created by one creator. Okay? Then, some observers have described Pope John Paul II as the most important ecumenical and interfaith pope in history. This man from a far country readily embraced Pope Paul VI's commitment to dialogue and quickly expanded the church and the religious outreach to the interfaith. Thus, John Paul brought a practical, hands-on approach to a tireless capacity of travel. Then, in most of his appropriate 100 trips abroad, these most global popes met the leaders of the numerous faith. In fact, he often requested such meeting. Then, interreligious encounters were also a staple of John Paul's daily ministry in Rome. Then, a prolific writer, he was responsible for staggering output of documents, statements, and speeches on the topic of interfaith. Then, Pope John Paul II forged dramatic new bonds with the Judaism and Islam. So, take note, dati, Judaism, then with the Hindu, now Judaism and Islam during the time of Pope John Paul II, forging a dramatic new bonds, then challenging centuries-old patterns of prejudice and alienation. Kasi hindi man natin mapakali talaga na noon may discrimination, may mga prejudice, alienation with each other. Okay? Then, he was the first pope in history to enter the synagogue and the mosque, yung masjid. So, take note ha, Pope John Paul II was the first pope to enter in the synagogue. When you talk about synagogue, this is the parang a church, a masjid, a prayer, a place of worship of the Jewish people. And of course, you are very familiar with the masjid, okay, the mosque. So it is estimated that during his pontificate, he had more than 150 meetings with Muslims. So take note, Pope John Paul II visited a lot, has a meeting with 150 meetings with the Muslims. Kaya nga one time when he went to Turkey, he knelt down, he kissed the ground, pero yung iba namang mga exclusivist, sabihin ko ha, with this interreligious, do not be exclusivist. Then sabi na agad ng ibang mga Muslim, uy, ang Santo Papa si Pope John Paul II pumunta sa masjid, nagpray, Muslim na siya. Hindi dapat ganon. Okay? Kasi yun yung paniwala ng iba. Kaya may kasama akong teacher dito, kilala ninyo, sabi niya, hala, nag-Muslim na pala si Pope John Paul II kasi pumunta sa masjid, nagdasal, nagpatira pa, lumuhod, kissing the ground, Muslim na siya. Hindi naman sa ganon. Pag ganon ang iniisip, you are not interreligious individual. Okay? So, this interfaith pilgrim also met the representatives of many other religions. During his travels, he consistently demonstrated respect for Hindus, Buddhists, and members of the local religious cultures. Then in 1986, John Paul II invited leaders of the world's religion to Assisi in Italy to pray and fast for world peace. Then some observers have described the Assisi gathering as the most important multi-faith prayer service in history, of course including Muslims, the Buddhists, the Jews, and the rest of the major religion in the world. Then Pope John Paul II was a man surely possessed by a global consciousness. He realized that there would never be a global peace and justice without dialogue among the world's religion. So take note according to what Pope John Paul II said. So he realized that there would never be a global peace and justice without dialogue among the world's religion. That's why I told you dialogue is very, very important in our life. Kasi magkaiba naman talaga yung ating pananampalataya. Pero because of this, pwede palang mag-usap. And if you want to gain the global peace and justice, so therefore, usap lang tayo. I think malinaw sa inyo ha mga peace student. Okay? Usap lang. Next, from Pope John Paul II, now, ito buhay pa itong isa, si Pope Benedict XVI, yung pinalitan ng aming leader si Pope Francis. Kinikilala naman siyang in the service of peace, si Pope Benedict XVI, in the service of peace. So wag ka lang kalimutan ha, the one who initiated the interfaith dialogue are the Catholic leaders. Okay? Once again, John the 23rd, next is Pope Paul VI, then John Paul II, then the fourth, which is known as in the service of peace, is Pope Benedict XVI. So the Catholic Church is committed to tolerance, respect, friendship, and peace between all peoples, cultures, and religions. So that's according to him. Then having worked so closely with John Paul II for many years, Pope Benedict XVI gained lots of exposure of interreligious dialogue. In his first public statement as Pope, he vowed to continue John Paul II's groundbreaking work in the realm of ecumenical and interfaith dialogue. So in his first papal sermon, he stated, "To those who follow other religions, the Church wishes to engage with them in an open and sincere dialogue in search of the true good of humanity and society." So once again ha, ito yon as Pope, ito yung unan niyang sermon. To those who follow other religions, the Church wishes to engage with them in an open and sincere dialogue in search of the true good of humanity and society. Then, the healing of relations between Christians and Jews was the centerpiece of John Paul II's interfaith commitment. Shortly after Benedict's election to the papacy, he met the Jewish leaders from around the world. In 2005, he became the second pope in history to enter the Jewish house of worship. At the synagogue in Cologne, Germany, he won standing ovation for his warning about the rising anti-Semitism and for his call for the renewed dialogue between Christians and the Jews. Bakit kaya ito kailangan dialogue ng Christian and the Jews? Kasi may alitan, may hidwaan, may ibang pananampalataya. Kaya nga, noon nag-away din yan. Kaya nga sabi ni Pope Benedict XVI, mag-usap tayo, ituloy natin yung inumpisahan ng aking predecessor na si Pope John Paul II. Then, during his pontificate, when he visited Auschwitz, the former Nazi concentration camp in Poland, it is a duty before the truth and the just due of all those who suffered here, the duty before God for me to come here as the successor of Pope John Paul II and a son of the German people, he said. Okay, kasi German man din ito si Benedict XVI. Then, Benedict has also followed up the John Paul II's effort to build bridges with the international Muslim community. So once again, tinuloy niya yung kanyang trabaho sa predecessor niya to build bridges with the international Muslim community. When receiving the representative of other religions who attended their celebration for the beginning of his pontificate, Benedict XVI stated, I am particularly grateful for the presence of our midst of members of the Muslim community, and I express my appreciation for the growth of dialogue between Muslims and Christians, both at the local and international levels. I assure you that the Church wants to continue building bridges of the fellowship with followers of other religions in order to seek the true good of every person and society as a whole. Sana malinaw yan ha. Bakit kailangan nating interreligious dialogue in the other, of course, other faith? Now, may focus siya dito, especially the Muslims and Christians. And why? Whether we like it or not, may alitan, may awayan, may patayan ba? Yes. If you go back to our history. 'Di ba? Naalaala siguro ninyo kung sinabi ito sa o nagbabasa kayo o hindi man sinabi ng mga leader ninyo, 'di ba? Yung the crusade, naalala niyan, then during that time, the expansion of Islam using the sword. Palaganap ang Islam. And here comes the Christianity using the rosary as well as the cross. So, nag-away-awayan doon. Pero ngayon, hindi natin ibalik yun. Kailangan nga ang dialogue. That's according to Benedict XVI. Ha? Malinaw sa atin yan. Then, Pope Benedict XVI has met the numerous Muslim leaders in Rome and outside Italy. In November, during that year, he also visited Turkey, a Muslim country, and became the second Pope in history to visit the masjid. Okay, who was the first one is Pope John Paul II. Now, he visited the masjid. Anong ginawa ni Pope Benedict XVI? Of course, he prayed. He kissed the ground. He prayed. Okay? Tandaan ninyo yan. Kaya nga, siguro to be interreligious, tayo, especially kayo ng mga Muslim, huwag kayong matakot din na papasok sa aming simbahan. Hindi man kayo nasusunog. Ay, haram talaga yan, ganito, ganyan. Pag ganun ang ugali ninyo, sabi ko, tanggalin na yung being exclusivist. Be an interreligious individual. Kaya nga, personally, I'm happy with all now na na-open na yung ibang mga tao na hindi na exclusive. Di ba? Napansin niyo yung example ko sa lecture dati, yung presentation ko, di ba? Ninong ko, may mga Muslim, may mga iba't ibang relihiyon. Ano why? Because we need dialogue. This is now, parang kumbaga trending ito. Kasi kapag wala yan, exclusivist pa rin tayo mag-iisip, magka-problema talaga tayo. Okay? So ulitin ko ha, please do not be exclusivist, especially pag nag-iisip ka. Be open. Widen your horizon. Kasi ito yun, inumpisa ng aming leader, yun yung ituloy. Okay? So now you know that the one who initiated the interfaith dialogue are our leaders, the Catholic Church. Whether you like it or not, you believe it or not, but history would tell us our Pope was the one who introduced interfaith dialogue. Kung baga nag-reach out to other religion. Once again, to the Jews, to the Hindus, and of course, now, to the Muslim community. Then he met a lot of Muslim leaders. Kaya nga, napansin ninyo, ang ating mga scholars, mga leaders, nag-uusap. Pero minsan dito sa baba, nag-aaway-away, nagpasikatan. Kami lang talagang totoong relihiyon. Kami lang totoo, ganito, ganyan. Kayo, mali kayo. So, dapat iwasan na natin yung gano'n na pag-iisip. For the sake of humanity. For the sake that we are brothers and sisters. And we are created by one God. Take note. Sana naintindihan ninyo yan. Then, the Pontifical Council of Interreligious Dialogue, since the Vatican Council II, itong Vatican Council II kasi sa amin, parang na-open ang aming simbahan. Okay? Then, may mga pagbabago dito. Kaya nga, ginagawa na to extend. Usap tayo. Kaya nga, an explosion of interfaith activity has occurred within the international Catholic community at all levels of the church, including the lay people, the teachers, academics, social activists, the monks, the missionaries, priests, bishops, and the popes. Then, in 1964, Pope Paul VI began building a Catholic infrastructure to nourish his dream of a church in conversation with other religions and cultures. And this organization, known as, once again, nabanggit ito in the previous slide, a Pontifical Council of Interreligious Dialogue, is an active international level and has the following goals. So, ito na yung goal sa Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue since the time of Pope Paul VI. First goal is to promote mutual understanding, respect, and collaboration between Catholics and followers of other religious traditions. Take note, ha? Promote mutual understanding, respect, and collaboration between Catholics and the followers of other religious tradition. I think that's clear. Second goal is to encourage the study of the world religion. That's why you are lucky because sa ating kinukuha niyo space, di ba, na pag-aralan natin, you have the world religion in the world. Natapos na din. Ngayon, interreligious dialogue. And why? If you know the other religion in the world, okay? Kung kilala mo sila, paano sila magdasal, paano sila ang kanilang pananampalataya, at inirespeto mo sila, so yun na yung you are an interreligious individual. Diba? Sabi natin in the previous presentation ko, if you want to be religious nowadays, you have to be interreligious. To be interreligious, you have to respect other religion and do not be exclusivist. Kuha? Then, the third goal of this Pontifical Council of Interreligious Dialogue is to promote the formation of persons dedicated to interfaith dialogue. Promote the formation of persons dedicated to interfaith dialogue. Kaya nga doon when I was still Notre Dame University together with Doc Salam, with Ustads Ali Abu Bakar, pinalaganap namin itong interreligious dialogue or interfaith dialogue in the university. Ngayon tayo dito sa ating university, since anak lang tayo ng peace, so therefore ipagpatuloy natin ito. Kayo mga young people, kayo yung magtuloy dito. Okay? Kaya nga sana tayo mga peace educator, peace advocate, peace keeper, peace seeker, basta lahat tayo, trabaho natin na ipalaganap itong interreligious or interfaith dialogue. Malinaw. Sana malinaw yan sa inyong lahat. So there are principles. So ito yung sinabi ko, principles and guidelines in interfaith dialogue. The one who introduced these principles and guidelines is Dr. Leonard Swidler, the highly respected American scholar in the field of interfaith dialogue. So Dr. Swidler has published a set of 10 interreligious principles which have become a classic. And below, ito yung ginawa niya, kaya nga 10, dialogue decalogue. So, there are 10 na nagawa ito si Dr. Leonard Swidler. So, may mga short version. In a short version, mayroon ding long version. So sa short version, ito yung first principle niya. The primary purpose of dialogue is to learn, that is to change and grow in the perception and understanding of reality and then act accordingly. Ang ganda, no? Learn, grow, understand the reality, then act accordingly. Yun yung sabi ko sa inyo. Kung alam na ninyo na may iba-ibang relihiyon sa mundo, iba-ibang panimpala ng matao, na napag-aralan mo yun, natutunan mo silang intindihin. So, ang nararapat mo, you act accordingly, irespeto mo sila. Malinaw. Then second principle according to Leonard, interdialogical dialogue must be two-sided project within its religious or ideological community and between religious or ideological community. So, anong ibig sabihin two-sided project? Kung ang kaming mga Katoliko, our leaders nag-initiate, dapat on the other side, may response. Kaya nga, para ito sa atin, two-sided dapat. Christians and Muslims, usap tayo. Okay? Hindi lang palagi nag-initiate ang Catholic Church. Kaya nga ngayon dito sa atin, the one that I shared with you, we have the Bishop Ulama, di ba, conference or forum. Grupo ito ng mga scholars. The Sheikh, the Ulama, the Ustadjas, dito naman pare, madre at iba pa. Two-sided project. Third principle, each participant must come to a dialogue with complete honesty and sincerity. Take note. Complete honesty and sincerity. You have to be honest, you have to be sincere if you want to engage in dialogue. Fourth, interreligious dialogue, inter-ideological dialogue, we must not compare our ideals with our partner's practice, but rather our ideals with our partner's ideal, our practice and our partner's practice. So, ang anong ibig sabihin din? We have to look at what is common. Anong nasa kanila, anong kapareho natin. Ideal nila, anong practice nila, more or less may kapareha tayo. Kuha natin. Hindi yung pag makita mo yung sa ay mali talaga, hindi ganon. Kung anong kapareha, yun yung gawin. Kaya nga sabi, two-sided project din siya in principle number 2. Fifth, each participant in a dialogue must define himself. Conversely, the interpreted must be able to recognize herself in his interpretation. So once again, bawat participante must define himself. Na kilalanin mo sarili mo. Then conversely, interpreted must be able to recognize herself in an interpretation. Kaya nga, mas lubusan mong kilalanin sarili mo, paninimpalataya mo, then religion mo. 6. Each participant must come to the dialogue with no hard and fast assumption as to where the points of disagreement. Now, take note. Each participant must come to a dialogue with no hard and fast assumption as to where the points of disagreement. Now, I think malinaw. Walang assumption, hindi nagmamadali para doon mahahantong doon sa hindi pagkakaunawaan. So, hindi na yun dapat. Kaya nga, that's the 6th principle. 7. Dialogue can take place only between equals. Both must come to learn from each other. Malinaw yan. Dialogue can take place only between equals. Yung equal footing, pareho kayo, then both come to learn from each other. Na ako as Christian, ikaw as Muslim, we have to learn from each other. Okay? Kaya nga ako, very close ako sa mga Muslim. Ang Muslim din, mga friend ko, I think close din sa akin. Because we respect each other, we know each other. Kaya nga, yung sinabi ko sa inyo, pag mag-fiesta kami, I invite my friends na mga Muslim. At alam ko kung anong dapat nilang kainin. Pag may kanduli naman sa Muslim friend ko, pupunta ako. Okay? Di ba ang ganda? Between equals, both must come to learn each other. Hindi yung pumunta ka doon, manira ka, punta ka doon sa kanila, i-check mo sila na mali ang practice. Hindi dapat ganon ang dialogue. Okay? Then, number 8, dialogue can take place only on the basis of mutual trust. Mutual trust. That's very, very important. Yung dialogue. Mutual trust. May tiwala talaga sa isa't isa. Walang traidoran. Kaya walang traidor. May tiwala sa isa't isa. Kaya nga ako personally nag-aral din ako ng Islam. And why? Para mas lubusan ko ring maunawaan at maintindihan at may respeto ko. Okay? Siguro kahit napikit-pikitan ko the 5 pillars on Islam, alam na alam ko yan. Okay? Kasi pinag-aralan ko at naintindihan ko. Okay. Kuha. The ninth principle. Persons entering the interreligious dialogue or inter-ideological dialogue must be at least minimally self-critical of both themselves and their own religious or ideological traditions. Anong ibig sabihin dito na dialogue must be at least minimal self-critical of both themselves and their own religious or ideological traditions. Okay? Minimal self-critical. Minimal lang. Kaya nga sabi ko, lubusin mong alamin mo rin ang iyong pinanindigan, ang iyong relihiyon. Okay? Both themselves with their own religious or ideological traditions. Okay? Then the last one. Its participants eventually must attempt to experience the partner's religion or ideology from within. For a religion or ideology is not merely something for the head, but also for the spirit, the heart, and the whole being, individual and communal. So once again if you want to engage in the interreligious dialogue, interfaith dialogue, okay, you must attempt to experience the partner's religion or ideology. Tingnan attempt kaya nga, yung sa akin, I really appreciate the way you pray. You kiss the ground with all the rituals, then that's a sign of humility in kissing the ground that you came from the dust. Kung ikaw naman, na pag-aralan mo akong Katoliko, I make sign of the cross, then I kneel down, and there are also times I kiss the ground. Kasi sa amin, we have a lot the way we pray. Minsan, we are singing while praying, we are dancing while praying. Okay, kung naintindihan mo yon, wala kang karapatan na magsabi, ay si Brother JoArs pag nagdasal, nag-sign of the cross, mali man yan. Ay si Brothers pag nasal kumanta, mali man yan. Hindi dapat ganon. Pag ganon ang pag-iisip mo, do not enter in this interreligious dialogue. Malinaw. Kaya sinasabi, ulitin ko must attempt to experience the partner's religion. Kung dito sa atin, Christian and Muslim partner tayo, o Christianity and Islam partner tayo, kaya nga, must attempt to experience the partner's religion or ideology then from within. For a religion or ideology is not merely something of the head, hindi lang sa head, but also in the spirit, the heart, the whole being, and the individual and communal. So malinaw yan malinaw yan. So that's why for us there is really a need to engage the interreligious dialogue, and these are the symbol of the different religion. In your readings, I think alam niyo yan. The Islam, the David star, the Jews, the cross, that's very common to us. The crescent moon, okay, my star, yung crescent, di ba? So familiar kayo, then that's our symbol. Then ito na yung long version. I think kayo na lang magbasa dyan sa long version. What about this long version? Kung tutusin, long version, ibig sabihin, pare-pareho lang yan. So, kayo nang babasa dyan, kaya yung short mas maganda. Pero, kung tutusin, pinahaba lang yan. Pero, Pareho lang yan. Okay, next. There are 3 goals of interreligious dialogue. First, to know oneself ever more profoundly and enrich and round out one's appreciation of one's own faith and tradition. Kaya nga palaliman ang iyong pananampalataya. Kaya nga profoundly enrich and round out one's appreciation of one's own faith and religion. That's the goal. Then next is to know the other ever more authentically and gain a friendly understanding of others as they are not in caricature. Yon yung sabi ko. Intindihin mong lubusan ang ibang pananampalataya din. Okay? Kaya nga, and gain a friendly understanding, yung naintindihan mo to others as they are not in caricature. Bakit? Alam mo yung caricature, di ba? But they are not caricature. They are existing. Totoo yun sa hindi sila caricature. Okay, mayroon ding ibang reliyon, maliban ang reliyon mo. Kaya nga yung mga exclusivists dito, once again, nag-isip, Christianity lang talagang totoong reliyon. Lahat mapunta sa impyerno. Mayroon, ang Islam na talagang totoong religion. Kasi ito yung the last prophet na pinadala ni Allah si Prophet Muhammad. Pag ganun ka mag-isip, tapos you condemn other religion, sabi ko, anong klase na God ang pinaniniwalaan mo? Ang sama-sama pala yan ng God mo. Okay? You condemn other religion. Na yung sabi ko sa inyo na, grabe ang sa amin, sa Christian world. Yung ibang mga Kristiyano they condemn us na kami daw mga Katoliko ang mali. Kaya pag sure sila, yun yung mga taong hindi marunong walang alam sa interreligious dialogue. Ang alam nila, paninira lamang. Malinaw. Then, the next is, to live ever more fully accordingly and to establish a more solid foundation for community of life and action among persons of various tradition. Ang ganda, no? Okay, itong number 3. To live ever more fully accordingly. To establish a more solid foundation for community of life and action among persons of various traditions. Kaya nga, ang Malaysia, ang Indonesia, nag-away ba sila sa relihiyon? And I think the Muslims there, especially Indonesia, the other religion are very much welcome. The Chinese have their religion. Kaya nga doon when I was in the seminary, mayroon kami doong eskwelahan sa Indonesia. Okay? Ang aming mga estudyante, mga Muslim. Kung may Christian man, iilan lang. But we live happily doon sa school na yon. May kinonvert ba ng mga Muslim? Wala. Okay? Na maging Christian? Wala. Ha? Malinaw yan. Malinaw yan sa ating lahat. So, principles toward a better interfaith relations. So, basahin ko lang ito. This is prepared naman ng isang pare na si Kenneth Fernando. Okay? And the interfaith concern for the Anglican Communion. Anglican, yes. Itong si retired Reverend Kenneth Fernando, hindi siya Katoliko, kundi Protestante siya. Pero mayroon din siyang mga principles na naibigay towards a better interfaith relations. So, basahin ko na lang. So, we must profess our failures and lack of love, respect, and sensitivity of people of other faiths in the past. We must intend to forgive one another, seek the forgiveness of each other, and commit ourselves to a new beginning. So, history, sabi natin, would tell us na nag-away-away tayo. So, kalimutan yung what is happening in the past. Then, there is a need to forgive. Okay? We have to seek for forgiveness and commit ourselves for the new beginning. Magbago na tayo. So, ito yung palagi kong panawagan sa inyo, tayo mga peace educator, peace advocate. Bago na tayo. Tanggalin yung ating mga agam-agam, tanggalin na ng ating mga prejudice. We have to commit ourselves to a new beginning. Second, we affirm that the good interfaith relation can open the way to a better inter-ethnic relations and peace throughout the world. Wow! If you want to have a global peace or peace throughout the world. Patatagin, pagbutihan natin ang interfaith dialogue. Okay, then we must recognize building true community. Tinatawag itong koinonia, okay, a true community in both persons and various ethnic religious communities as our primary objective. We need to develop a global theology that will be appropriate for unfolding sense of globalized world. Then fourth, we must affirm the importance of promoting a culture of dialogue within and among all religious communities and indigenous tradition. Okay? Promote this culture of dialogue. At trabaho natin din yon. Then, we condemn violence and terrorism as being against the spirit of all true religion, and we pledge ourselves to removing their causes. Ulitin ko ha, kasi especially itong violence and religious terrorism. May nangyayari sa atin with this violent extremists, with this fundamentalists. Kaya nga, itinatakwil siya sa totoong mga Muslim. Kasi hindi talaga sila Muslim, but they are bringing the Islam religion. Yun yung nagka-problema. Kaya nga, magkalabo-labo tuloy. Biro mo yan, pagpugot, pagpatay, pugot ng ulo, then isisigaw, Allahu Akbar, ginamit pa ang Diyos. Kaya alam ninyo yan, magtakbir pa sila. Sabi ko, anong klaseng God pinaniwaan itong taong ito? Kaya nga yung kasagsagan ng Marawi Seeds, kasagsagan doon sa Zamboanga, sa Basilan, di ba? Anong nangyari? Ang dami-daming mga Muslim na kinokondemn yun because they are spreading violence and terrorism na hindi yan gawain ng isang Muslim. Pero ang problema, nadadamay na. Okay? Then, 6, we shall respect the integrity of all religions and ensure that they have the freedom to follow their own beliefs and practices. Take note ha, respect the integrity of all religions and ensure that they have the freedom to follow their own beliefs and practices. Napansin nyo dito sa Cotabato, hala, mag-farm na tayo, ganito ganyan, gawing Islamic City na naman ang Cotabato City. So bawal na magtinda mga Kristiyan ng mga haram, bawal na kakain na ganito. Wala, dapat ganon. Walang ganyanan. Respect the integrity of all religions. Pag ganon ang iniisip, ibig sabihin, wala kang puwang sa interreligious or interfaith dialogue. Okay? Dapat all of us, kasi our religion, that's our right. So bakit? Kaya nga minsan, yung tandaan nyo ha, yung ang problema in the Islamic countries, especially the Middle East, may mga estado doon na talagang bawal mag-practice among religion. Kaya nga minsan, it's so unfair. Okay? So unfair for us Christian na nandoon. Dapat mag-wear ka talaga dito. Ang uncle ko doon sa Jeddah, sa isang lugar doon, nabilanggo dahil na hulihan siya ng rosary sa kanyang bulsa. Ibig sabihin, hindi talaga interreligious sila. Okay? Kaya nga tingnan nyo, our rosary, anong katumbas sa rosary nyo magpa-pray? Yung rosary beads namin, di ba? May tasbih ba kayo? Napansin niyo yun? Kung may respeto ka, alam mo interreligious dialogue, anong problema doon? Kaya nga sinabi dito sa 6 principle, respect the integrity of all religion and ensure that they have a freedom to follow their own beliefs and practices. Kuha. Then, we believe that the different religions are enriched by identifying agendas in which they can collaborate, such as making peace, protecting the environment, eradicating poverty, and ensuring the human dignity of all. I think naintindihan naman siguro ninyo. Then 8, we affirm that it is important for us to listen and learn from other religions so that we can value religious plurality as a factor that enriches our communities. Then number 9, we endeavor to live out and explain the truths of our own religion in a manner that is intelligible, friendly to people of other faith. Ganun yan sa dialogue. Pag may tanong ka, makinig ka, pakinggan mo siya. Huwag mo siyang barahin. Irespeto mo siya. Same is true with the other party. Kaya sabi natin kanina, both sides, two-sided talaga yung dialogue. Kaya nga, be open. Open your horizon. Then the last one, cultural diversity as well as religious diversity in our communities will be affirmed as a source of enrichment and challenge. So yun, kasi whether we like it or not, diverse talaga. Magkaiba talaga tayo. Not only our culture, but of course, our religion. So there are 4 levels, take note, 4 levels of interreligious dialogue in which alam na alam nyo ito during my presentation, in the previous presentation, na-discuss na rin ito. Okay, the 4 levels of dialogue. At saka may example doon, may mga drawing pa doon, may mga picture pa. But, well, as part of a review, take note on the 4 levels of interreligious dialogue. The first is dialogue of life, where people strive to live in an open and neighborly spirit, sharing their joy and sorrows, their human problems and preoccupations. Then the dialogue of action, in which persons of all religions collaborate for the integral development and liberation of people. Third, the dialogue of theological exchange. O ito yung dialogue of discourse, di ba naalala nyo? Where specialists seek to deepen their understanding of their own respective religious heritage and to appreciate each other's spiritual values. Then the last one, the dialogue of religious experience, where persons rooted in their own religious traditions share their spiritual richness, for instance, with regard to prayer and contemplation, faith and the ways of God, of searching for God or the absolute. And ito yung gawa ito ni Thomas Tangadraj, The Common Task in the Theology of Christian Mission. So, ibig sabihin, ito si M. Thomas is an Indian priest. So, no need to elaborate. I think na-elaborate na yan during the previous presentation, especially yung research na na-present ko sa inyo. May mga specific example na naibigay. So, there are 5 types of interreligious dialogue. So, take note ha, this one is 4 levels of dialogue. Dialogue of life, religious experience, dialogue of action, dialogue of theological exchange. At ito na naman is the types of interreligious dialogue. The first one, 5. First one is informational. I think from the word informational, information. Acquiring knowledge of faiths, partners, religious history, founding, basic beliefs, scriptures. So, just an information. Alamin, okay, to have a knowledge of the religion of others, their history. Okay? Kaya nga, yung iba, pag exclusivist ka, sabi talaga, marami talaga exclusivist na mga kaibigan ko. Talaga ang totoong relihiyon, namatay yung iba, talagang Islam. Kasi ito ngayon. Kaya nga, sa isip-isip ko lang, for the sake of peace, hindi na lang ako, sabi ko, ano itong taong ito? Hindi nagbasa? Bago siya nag-exist, may iba nang nauna. Okay? Kaya nga, just acquire knowledge. Read books. Read their history. To get information. Kasi that's a type of dialogue. Interreligious dialogue. Second, confessional. Allowing the faith's partner to speak for and define themselves in terms of what it means to live as an adherent. So, hayaan mo lang siya, ganito kasi kaming mga Kristiyano, ganito kasi kaming mga Muslim, yung let them speak, let them define themselves in terms of what it means to live bilang sila. Okay? Kaya nga kung ikaw, alam mo, magsabi ka naman, hindi yung negatiba na, ganyan kasi yan sila magdasal, ganito kasi yan, ganyan kasi yan. Hindi yung grabing sira agad. Hindi pwede. Okay? Next is experiential. Dialogue with faith partners from within the partner's tradition, worship, and rituals. entering into the feelings of one's partner and permitting the person's symbol and stories to guide. I think more or less yung the dialogue of life, pare-pareho sila din. Relational, from relation. Develop friendship with individual person beyond the business of dialogue. Relational ha, ulitin ko, develop friendships with individual persons beyond the business of dialogue. Friendship. Whatever is your religion, friend tayo. Magtulungan tayo. Okay? Nakuha ninyo? Kasi sabi ko, for the sake of humanity, tao tayo. May isa tayong manlilikha. Then the fifth is practical. Collaborate to promote peace and justice. Ayun, that's why practical. If you want peace, dapat be practical. Promote peace, justice. If you want, and then apply this interreligious dialogue principles and the types if you want peace, especially peace in the world. Then may yung Assisi Decalogue, yung na-mention natin the previous slides. Itong Decalogue nga, 10 nga. P-fold, there are 200 faith representative during the service prayer in Assisi. Assisi is one place in Italy. Okay? Each one read the following 10 commitments in their own language. On March, Pope John Paul II sent a copy of Decalogue for Peace to all heads of the state. In an accompanying letter, the Pope stated that the participants of Assisi gathering were inspired more than ever by one common conviction: humanity must choose between love and hatred. Okay, for the sake of humanity, kaya nga must choose, but we have to choose love. We have to deny, to refuse hatred. Kasi sabi nga, nangyayari na itong hatred noon. Pag ibalik pa yan ngayong hatred, kaya nga sa amin mga Kristiyano, we have to spread love. Do not spread hate. If you spread hate, culture of violence na ang mangyayari dyan. Okay? Wala na itong, hindi na applicable yung interfaith or interreligious dialogue. So ito na yung each representative, sabi natin from the Assisi, iba-ibang mga religion na 200 faith representative, binabasa nila itong kanilang commitment. So basahin ko lang din. First, we commit ourselves to proclaiming our firm conviction that violence and terrorism are opposed to all true religious spirit, and we must condemn all recourse to violence and war in the name of God or religion. We undertake to do everything possible to eradicate the causes of terrorism. That's their first commitment. Then, we commit ourselves to educate people about respect and mutual esteem in order to achieve peaceful coexistence and solidarity among members of the different ethnic groups, cultures, and religion. Third, we commit ourselves to promote the culture of dialogue so that understanding and trust may develop among individuals and peoples, as these are the conditions of authentic peace. Fourth, we commit ourselves to defend the right of all human beings to lead a dignified life in accordance with their own cultural identity. Fifth, we commit ourselves to engage in dialogue with sincere patience without considering what separates us as an insurmountable wall. On the contrary, recognizing that facing our differences can become an occasion for greater reciprocal understanding. Sixth commitment nila. We commit ourselves to pardon each other's errors and prejudice of the past and present, and to support one another in a common struggle against egoism and abuses, hatred and violence, and in order to learn from the past that peace without justice is not true peace. 7. We commit ourselves to stand at the side of those who suffer poverty and abandonment, speaking out of those who have no voice and taking concrete actions to overcome such situations, in the conviction that no one can be happy alone. dapat everybody happy. Okay? 8. We commit ourselves to make our own the cry of those who do not surrender to violence and evil, and we wish to contribute with all our strength to give a real hope and justice and peace to the humanity of our time. Next, we commit ourselves to encourage our initiatives that promote friendship between peoples in the conviction that if a solid understanding between peoples is lacking, technological progress exposes the world to increasing dangers of destruction and death. Then the last of their commitment, we commit ourselves to ask the leaders of nations to make every possible efforts as to build at both national and international levels a world of solidarity and peace founded on justice. So, those 10 points there are the commitment of the different 200 representative in the gathering interfaith prayer service at Assisi in Italy. That was 2002. So there are 7 stages of deep dialogue according to Paul Mods Zis and Leonard Swidler. So nandoon pa rin si Swidler. So stages of the deep. So malaliman na itong dialogue. The first stage is the radical encountering of deference. I think from the word radical encountering of deference, sige, basahin anong ibig sabihin. The early encounters of those of other religions are inherently challenging and even threatening as I face a new world view, a new way of interpreting reality, ways of responding that are clearly other. I am tempted to appropriate to other to my own worldview. I soon realized that this disruption to my worldview, the ways of responding won't go away, nor will it accommodate my own worldview and ways of responding. I may be tempted to withdraw from the situation only to discover that my place in society may not allow for such withdrawal, that the decision to proceed moves me on into the second stage. So, kahit na magkaiba-iba, kaya nga medyo radical encountering of difference, then hindi ka nag-stop doon. Another stage is crossing over, then letting go and entering the world of the other. So, ang ganda, no? From that radical experience, then now, you cross over, then you let go, especially in the world of others. Anong sinasabi dito? As I make the decisions to engage in the world of the other sincerely, I find myself called to explore, to learn anew, and to reassess my norms regarding adequate and appropriate expressions of values, and to critique my traditional attitudes. Take note, critique your traditional attitude. Then I find that I need to approach the new world with openness and bracketing of my stereotypes and prejudices. As I do this, I find myself moving into the third stage. Sa third is inhabiting and experiencing the world of other. Ngayon, nag-crossover ka pa ngayon, experiencing the world of others. The experience of empathy. You know what is empathy? Okay? You put your feet to the shoes of others. Okay? Once again, the experience of empathy and interest then expands into the sense of freedom that opens the door to learn many things from other world. What is the greatest importance? Modalities of interactions. What causes the suffering of those in this world? As I experiment with integrating ways of thinking and acting in the light of my discoveries, I sense an excitement and deepening relationship with those of this world. Then At a certain point, after I have gained some competence in negotiating this environment, I discover that this is not my true home. And this moves me to the fourth stage. So, tandaan nyo ha, fourth is crossing back with an expanded vision. So, na-expand na. Na-experience mo yung iba. Now, pumunta ka sa next stage, the expanded vision. The new knowledge that I have gained and alternative ways of thinking and acting is now a part of my repertoire as I regain my sense of belonging in my own world. I am able to think and act from both perspectives as the context may require. My own sense of identity has deepened, has changed, and no matter what choices I freely make to believe and to act, I can no longer assume that my former unilateral way of being in the world is the only way. My attitudes and concerns are irrevocably reshaped to hold the other in view in relationship. And this moves to the fifth stage, which is dialogic awakening or the radical paradigm shift. Experience mo na-expand yung vision mo ngayon, dito naman, dialogical awakening, may paradigm shift. Okay? I experience a profound shift in my worldview as well as expanded consciousness of concern and needs and causes the dysfunction of the world realities and viable ways of human response. I can no longer return to my former worldview that I did have a place for this other. Further, I am irrevocably shaped to the possibility that there is a plurality of viable worldviews, concerns, and human responses. This changes my sense of myself. I become aware of the interconnectedness of myself and all others, including the earth and all her needs and potentials. And this awakening is what moves you to the next stage. Anong next stage? Global awakening na. Okay? And this stage of deep dialogue opens me to a common ground that underlies the multiple world with which I am surrounded. I can perceive that the unique differences essential to these worlds are contained in a field of unity. My own inner world is now apparent as a range of perspective and unique to myself. I am increasingly open to dialogue with others in many various communities of life, to transform relationship with them, and to embrace of the context in which these communities are situated. This is for me an expanding world of communities of life with greater potentials for ongoing dialogue, now learning, and deepen relationship. This moves you to the next stage. So once again, that's a global awakening or the paradigm shift matures. Okay? Next stage, the personal and global transforming of life and behavior. One of the most significant transformation that has taken place on this journey is a greater and more encompassing moral consciousness and ensuing practice. The communion that I experience with all, yourself, others, and the earth, is profound. I sense that my care for myself, instead of being in competition with concern for the welfare of other realities, is integral to the care of the whole. So may pagbabago na talaga. Then as I come to a deeper realization and greater self-fulfillment, I experience deeper meaning in a relationship and in my whole life. Wow, ang ganda itong stages na ito. So, I think nakuha ninyo yan, naintindihan nyo. Now, take note on this. What about this dialogue versus debate? Now, you know very well what is dialogue. And I think you have experience of the debate. So, tingnan ito. Dialogue is understanding of myself and others, while debate is successful argument of my position over that of an opponent. Kaya nga, in an interreligious dialogue, iwasan itong debate. Iwasan itong pagbabangayan. Okay? So, tingnan nyo. Now, I'll give you this as assignment. Just simply identify, is this dialogue or a debate? Submit nyo ito ha. 12, 20. So, there are 20 points. Gawin nyo ha. Just identify either dialogue or debate. Sana walang kopyahan. Kasi you know what is debate and we had already explained what is dialogue. So, that's 20 points. Sana malinaw yan. Okay? Kaya ka sinasabi, dialogue is not debate. And why? Because dialogue is oppositional. Mag-oppose ka talaga. In the debate, then two or more sides oppose each other. Then, while dialogue is collaborative. Kaya nga, dialogue is not debate. Kasi when you say debate is may opposition na, nag-oppose ka talaga. While dialogue is collaborative. Then, in debate, one searches for another position's flaws and weaknesses. Then, in dialogue, one searches for strength in the other position. Then, debate creates close-minded attitude, determined to be right, while dialogue creates an open-minded attitude. Take note ha, close-minded ang debate, ito open-minded attitude. An openness to being wrong and an openness to change. Then in debate, winning is a goal, while in dialogue, finding the common ground is a goal. I think that's malinaw. Then debate defends the position and the best solution and excludes other positions, while dialogue opens up the possibility of reaching a better solutions than any of the original situations. Then the debates assume there is a right answer and that someone has it. Then dialogue assumes many people have pieces of answer and that together they can put them into a workable solution. The debate implies conclusion while dialogue remains open-ended. To proceed, there are 9 guidelines for listening to others. And these guidelines were developed by K. Lendal, the founder of Listening Center in Lagwan, Nigel in California. K is also the chairperson of the North American Interfaith Network. So we include these guidelines here because listening is vital to any forms of dialogue, including the interfaith dialogue. And these guidelines are designed to facilitate healthy dialogue and deep listening to create a safe space for meaningful conversation on all levels. So ano itong 9 guidelines of listening to others? First, when you are listening, suspend assumption. Huwag kalimutan na, makinig ka, do not assume na alam mo. I-suspend mo yung assumption mo. Then, pangalawa, when you are listening, express personal response. While listening, express personal response. And what about this? So, informed by your traditions, beliefs, and practices as you have interpreted them in your life, speak for yourself. Use the I language. Yan bang? Ako. Ako lang ang gamit. Ituro mong sarili mo. Then, take ownership of what you say. Speak from your heart. Notice how often the phrases we, all, and of course, everyone says, come into their conversation. the only person you can truly speak for you is yourself. That's why, I. Ako ang experience ko, ako ang religion ko, ako lang. Okay? Then listen without judgment. Kanina, do not assume. Dito na sa number 3, makinig ka. Huwag kang mag-judge. Okay? Ikaw, masama mo, ganito, mali yung sinasabi. Do not judge. Okay? Then, suspend status. Number 4. Everyone is an equal partner in inquiry. Yung sa amin natin din kanina, yung both sides dapat equal. Then there is no seniority or hierarchy. Okay? All are colleagues with a mutual quest for the insights and clarity. Kaya nga, suspend. Hindi, ikaw ang leader, ikaw mayaman, ikaw ganito. Hindi, suspend the status. Pareho tayo, equal tayo. Okay? Especially sa pakikinig. Then honor confidentiality. I think that's self-explanatory. Kung ano yung nabahagi dyan, anong na-share doon, that's only in the group. And do not dismiss it. Huwag nagmagmarites in order to be confidential yung mga pinag-usapan. I-honor yan. Atin-atin lang talaga ito. What has been shared in our group, atin lang yan. At huwag nang ipalabas. Ulitin ko, walang marites sa pakikinig. Huwag nang magmarites. Or anuman dyan, Marisol, Maricor at iba pa. Or Brian, lahat-lahat na. Huwag na. Honor confidentiality. What has been shared, if it's confidential, sa inyo lang na grupo. Then, listen for understanding, not to agree with or believe. And you do not have to agree with or believe anything that is said. Your job is to listen for understanding. Kinig ka lang. Intindihin mo lang. Okay? Maniwala ka mo sa hindi, okay lang. Basta nakinig ka. Then, number 7, ask clarifying or open-ended questions to assess your understanding and to explore assumption. O kunwari, sabi man, do not assume, di ka nag-assume. Pero kung kailangan mo i-clarify, tanungin mo yon kung sino yung nagsasalita. Alam mo, ganito, hindi ko masyadong naintindihan. Gusto kong ipaliwanag, yung tipong ganon. Then, number 8, honor silence and time for reflections. Ayan. Notice what wants to be said and rather than what want to say. Okay, honor, silence, and time for reflection. Then the last one. One person speaks at a time. Alam naman natin yan. Okay? Pay attention to the flow of the conversation. Notice what patterns emerge from the group. Make sure that each person has an opportunity to speak while knowing that no one is required to speak. Halimbawa, nag-grupo kayo, nag-circle kayo, may isang nagsasalita, hayaan mo lang siya. Then maghintay ka sa iyong turn na magsalita din. Okay? Ang your role here is to listen. So those are the 9 guidelines for listening to others, especially in a dialogue. Okay. Then we have the so-called compassionate listening. What about this compassionate listening? May mga some assumptions. So the first step towards interfaith dialogue, compassionate listening assumes that before the authentic dialogue can occur, conflicting parties must first listen to each other. We cannot assume that we really know how it is to be another. Then compassionate listening does not seek to change the other, but to love them. The more the person is loved, the more they are free to respond to inner truth. Then compassion listening assumes that to build peace, we need to acknowledge the humanity and the suffering of the other. Misunderstanding, conflict, and violence are the result of unhealed wounds. I think that's clear. Then compassionate listening trusts that when people truly feel heard, they will be more open to hearing the stories of those with whom they disagree. Then compassionate listening is a practice of reconciliation and is thus based on the belief that mutual understanding and respect are the foundations for building communities across the borders of differences. So, another one is the guidelines for organizing interfaith. In case, if you are given a chance to go to the community, and I don't know kung magawa natin ito, pero bawal man basta-basta go to the barrio, to the barangay, then magkaroon ng dialogue. Pero at least what is important na alam mo, So, especially these guidelines of organizing interfaith meeting. So, una, provide appropriate and comfortable meeting place for a group. Then, arrange space to allow for democratic participation and be aware of that access needs a dietary restriction of faith groups or group members. Then, arrive in advance of our participants so hospitality is ready and available when participants begin to arrive. So at least may welcoming spirit. Then have sufficient supplies and copies of materials available to participants in advance, ha? Kung kailangan. Kailangan yan. Kaya minsan sulat-sulat yan sila. Then allow adequate time for introductions and use name tags until members are known to the leaders and each other. Then commit to beginning and ending sessions on time. Then build a community, include opening and closing exercises that help participants to get to know other members of the group. Then create a climate that supports prayer and reflection. Use the prayers and rituals in various traditions to support learning. Allow time and space for silence as well as for speaking. Next is remind participants that dialogue is in as much as perhaps more about listening as it is about speaking. Practice listening skills with a group of, if necessary. Insist that put downs of people or their feelings are unacceptable. Next is plan for the diversity of learning styles using variety of media, print, visuals, discussions, etc. Next is seek a balance in participation. Watch the individuals or groups and who dominate or as well as who are silent. Encourage everyone, but also give everyone the right to pass in any discussion. Then make it clear that no member of the group will be forced to share more than he or she feels comfortable to reveal. Okay, take note. Then enlist the whole group in taking responsibility for making the experience work. So, tingnan niyan. Then, there are also 10 things you can do to support interfaith peacemaking and collaboration. So, kayo na siguro magbasa dyan. Yan. Ulitin ko, that's 10 things you can do to support interfaith peacemaking and collaborative action. Next, yan. The next. So may mga lessons din na natutunan si James Fleming. He's an Irish Roman Catholic priest with extensive experience in a Muslim-Christian dialogue. Ito yung kanyang lesson na learn. Relate to others as an equal partners in a search for truth. Then listening as well as speaking is necessary for genuine conversion or conversation. Remember the words of Saint Francis of Assisi, preach the gospel always. When necessary, use words. Okay? Then, treasure the sense of wonder that comes with encountering the new, the unusual, and the surprising. Then, record such experiences as a journal if possible. Then, be hungry for the knowledge about others' person's culture and religion. Then, be honest in sharing the beliefs and do not try to water them down to accommodate. Then, do not misrepresent or disparage other people's belief and practices. Then, be aware of your own need for ongoing conversion of your own professed beliefs. Then, respond to others as a gift, not as a threat. Then, be sensitive to vulnerable people and do not try to exploit them. Then remember that it is our difference that can make us difference. So rejoice in the richness of our diversities. Okay? So, those are the lesson learned by one of the Catholic priests, Father James Fleming. Then there are 10 rules of interfaith dialogue. have a good grasp of your own traditions. So, kaya kilalanin mong lubusan ang tradisyon mo bilang mananampalataya. Then, second, come to dialogue in order to learn and grow, not to change the other. Okay? Learn and grow, not to change the other. Basta punta ka sa dialogue para mangumbinsi ka, para mangonvert ka, huwag ka nang mag-join sa dialogue na yon. Okay? And be willing also to help your own faith community to grow and change. Okay? Then be honest and sincere and assume that others are equally honest and sincere. Then respect other religious experience, identity of others, and anticipate that they will do the same for you. Then don't assume in advance where points of agreement or disagreement will exist. Seventh, be prepared to participate in dialogue on an equal footing. Then be reflective and prepared to critique your own tradition, your own tradition, not the tradition of others. Next is strive to experience the other's faith from within and be prepared to view yourself differently as the result of an outside perspective. Then the last one, try to be aware of the cultural conditioning and historical memory we bring to dialogue. So those are the 10 rules in interfaith dialogue. If you notice, yung mga rules na yon, halos pare-pareho. Of course, with the different authors. As ang sources naman dito, nandoon naman si Swindler, si Leonard Swindler din, Cunningham. So, yon. So, the guidelines of interreligious understanding, kayo lang din magbasa dyan. At saka may mga recent points, list 8 points itong guidelines of understanding. Iba namang gumawa dito, ibang author, si Father Thomas Keating, is a Roman Catholic at Trappist monk. So ito namang 8 points niya yan. Kayo na rin magbasa yung 8 na yan. Sana may natutunan din kayo ha. Then may points of agreement or similarity. Iba namang author, coming from the Snowmass Conference that was on May 1986, they come up with the points of agreement. May mga example of discipline practice which is common to all of us. The practice of compassion, service to others, practice moral precepts and virtues, training in meditation techniques and regularity of practice, attention of diet and exercise, fasting and abstinence, the use of music and chanting the sacred symbols, practice in awareness, then pilgrimage, study of scriptural texts or scriptures. So ito yung the points of agreement or similarity. Kung titingnan nyo, halos lahat ng mga religion nandyan yan. Kaya nga example yan of the discipline practice which is common to all religion in the world. Ano bang hindi common dyan? Meron ba? Practical moral precepts and virtues, meron lahat. Mayroong meditation techniques, regular practice of regularity of practice, mayroon lahat. Attention to diet and exercise, mayroon lahat. Okay? Fasting and abstinence, mayroon din lahat. The use of music and chanting the sacred symbols, sino magsabing wala? Hindi common yan. Common yan. Diba? In Islam, diba, nagta-chant during the prayer? Napansin ninyo? That's chanting. That's singing in the sacred symbols. Then, practice awareness, recollection, mindfulness, and living the present moment. Of course, we have the Hajj, pilgrimage. Kung mayroon kayo, mayroon din kami. Ang Hindu at saka Jewish, mayroon din sila. Okay, the study of theirs, they have also their scriptures. So, that's common example of similarities. So, yan, kayo na rin magbasa dyan. Pero maganda, tingnan nyo. Number 1, the world religions bear witness to the experience of ultimate reality to which they give various names. The Brahma, Allah, Absolute God, or Great Spirit. So whatever is the name, but you are referring that to God. Then the ultimate reality cannot be limited to any name or concept. Kasi magkaiba-iba naman talaga. Kasi iba-iba yung relihiyon natin. Kaya nga, ulitin ko, you cannot dictate, talaga ang totoong Panginoon namin, ganito, ganyan. Ito yung pangalan niya kasi nakasulat. Para yan sa'yo. But do not convert others na, sundin nyo ito kasi sa inyong mali. So ulitin ko, pag ganun ang ideya, ugali mo hanggang ngayon, drop the course itong interfaith dialogue. Okay? Kung bumabalik. Ayan, another in traditions, common din. Relationship with qualified teachers, pwede. Repetition the sacred words o mantra. Mayroon bang inulit-ulit na ang Hindu, gano'n yan siya. Paulit-ulit. In Islam, mayroon ba paulit-ulit na dasal? Kasi marami naman yung mga exclusivist mag-isip ba, mga Katoliko, balik-balik, repetitive prayer, sige, Hail Mary, sige, Our Father. Tapos hindi tinitingnan ang sarili niyang prayer, di ba? The Al-Fatiha, that's the beginning. Sige lang, balik-balik din, sige, balik-balik din. Pero pag makahusga ng iba, ang ganda. Dapat hindi ganun ha, to be interreligious. I think malinaw yan. Then what about this observance of periods of silence and solitude? I think meron. The movement and dance. Kung wala mang dance in Islam, but the movement meron. Especially the way you pray. Diba? That's a movement. Ablution muna, then after that, may binabanggit, bago mag-kiss sa ground, may ginagawa, diba? That's a movement. If it has a dance, yung iba nga mag-dance. Okay? Then, the formation community, of course, may mga formation din. Then, the rest, kayo nang magbasa. Then, we have the Unified Religions Initiative, URI, or URI, ang acronym. Pag unified, lahat, maraming naggrupo. Maraming religion, attended by all religions, if not all, but the majority religions in the world. And it happened in San Francisco, USA in 1993. Ano yung United Religions Initiative? Yan, may preamble sila. Kayo na rin magbasa dyan. The preamble is the introductory part of the rules of their constitution. Okay, kayo na magbasa dyan. Sana may matutunan din tayo. Okay, next. Anong purpose doon? The purpose of the Interreligious Initiative is to promote enduring daily interfaith cooperation and to end religiously motivated by violence and to create cultures of peace, justice, and healing for the earth and all living beings. Then the principles of the URI, United Religious Initiative, kayo lang din magbasa dyan, yan. Yan. So with that, I hope you learn something and please listen to this lecture kasi para yon sa inyo, para yon sa ating lahat, para matuto tayo. So once again, ulitin ko ito, if you want to be religious nowadays, you have to be interreligious. And to be interreligious is you have to respect other religion. Malinaw yan. So, syukran, God bless everyone. Dalaygon ang Diyos.